social insurance institution building complex in the Zirik district in Istanbul was constructed by architect Sedad Eldem between 1962 to 64. It was his idea and style of understanding architecture that adapted to the historical environment that made the structure received great acclaim. Elements of traditional Turkish architecture, such as horizontal roofline, wide canopies, windows lined up, and overhangs, were used. The building, which carries the characteristics of Ottoman architecture in a contemporary style, is among the most important works of Eldem, winning him the prestigious Aga Khan Award. Sedad, born in an upper-class family, spent most of his childhood in Europe and spoke French, German, and later on Turkish as well. He studied under many great architects and even interacted with Le Corbusier. Eldem's architectural practice began after the construction of his Turkish pavilion project for the Budapest Fair in 1931 and his academic life in 1932 when he was appointed to the Academy as a professor. Till his passing in 1988, Eldem constructed numerous buildings and was successful in his role at the Academy, making him one of the most pronounced architects and complicated figures in Turkey. The Sosyal Sigortalar Kurumu, commonly known as SSK, is one of his most significant works as well as one of the key modern buildings in Turkey. The most admired characteristic of this complex is how it is harmonically integrated into his historical context, which was once an urban fabric consisting of vernacular Turkish houses, but has changed significantly to its present condition. In addition, Eldem not only dealt with the morphological features of individual buildings with a full contextual attitude, but also designed the general layout to fit the silhouette of the street. However, like every contextualist structure, the SSK complex moved away from its starting point when the construction was completed due to the fact that the context had already changed, which many are not aware of actually. The main idea lies in the principle of realizing the building complex in harmony with the environment in which it is located, reflected in Turkey in the 1950s and 60s, which led to a critical evaluation of the different views on the revised international style of the new regionalism that has fallen to occur at a time of discussion. While the complex is sensitive to the scale and topography of the land in its entirety, the individual blocks exhibit Eldem's interpretation of the traditional house in a modern language. Eldem's environmental consciousness in Zirik shows sensitivity to the physical, topographical context, as well as to the historical context that left traces in the memories. He went back to his student years, in fact, in Zirik and made a particular effort to capture the traces left in his memory. The concept of Sedad Eldem's style can be mentioned during the 1950s to 80s, so much so that some buildings, especially residences, have features that can be considered as Eldem's signature. The second national Turkish style was the representation of the new Turkish nation and its ideals. It was increasingly inspired by the sudden economic shift in the 20th century because of the Second World War and the rise in nationalism that had overtaken Europe as a whole prior to that. It was ergo Turkish revivalism, with its essence being an emphasis on functionality, using old Turkish forms to fit for the climate and resources.
In this period, it is very important to emphasize the peculiar setup and features of social insurance institution building where contextualism was adopted in design. It is because Eldem knew how to adopt his style to large-scale differential functional structures that allowed him to come up with a formula. Common features of this include symmetrical, monumental forms, facade protrusions, and the use of traditional Turkish window proportions. In specific, these features are relevant to the SSK complex as it adapts to these features and forms a modern understanding of an inherently traditional context. One of the more obvious features is the roof and the long eaves on the mostly flat roof and the long rectangular profile windows referencing the old timber houses. The cantilevered extended floors with a modern basis are a nod to Eldem's particular understanding of vernacular Turkish architecture and its inherently modern plan. The modular approach that was intrinsic to Eldem's style can be seen in the plan of the SSK complex. These all together establish as Turkish second national style. Involving the fundamentals of the international style, Eldem built a large structure that is separating in small fragments with multiple functions, dubbed as the small multi-part approach. The idea of the architecture was to be more conscious of the surrounding traditional Turkish neighborhood and establish a base that is not damaging the aesthetic nor the topography. Eldem's choice for the majority of the structure was to be reinforced concrete, which is one of the international style's essential materials. The majority of the exterior has been decorated with cladding and louver systems that, however, goes against the international style because it doesn't have a plain surface, and these are ceramic tiles, mosaic tiles, stone tiles, parapets, and vertical louvers. Later inclusion of bitumen was effectuated. Being divided to fragments, the building includes many doors and windows. These components have been encircled with wooden frames and come in different dimensions. The ground floor follows a curtain wall system. The first floor's front elevation has no windows, but from the sides it has a few. And from the second floor onwards, there are plenty of windows which are spaced with vertical louvers.
The complex is divided into 5 areas. Each originally had a function before it was changed to 2, which are Chibali SGK and Unkaptan SGK. Their functions were 1. Coffee house, 2. Bank and dining hall, 3 and 4. Dispensary, and 5. Office. The street of Zarek is sloped, which leads to unlevel floors. To counter this, Eldem cut out the ground below and made the floor flat. In terms of foundation and load-carrying method, Eldem used shallow footing with a concrete slab holding the complex. For central load, he used reinforced concrete columns throughout the inside to hold the structure. The footings of the foundation extend from the concrete slab and predominantly make another horizontal surface from flat columns that connect from one footing to the other. Furthermore, the layout of the complex seems inconvenient because if you were to go directly behind the buildings, you'd have to go around the entire complex. However, at the start of the complex, from the coffee house, there are stairs that equalizes the slope for the people to walk, which also provides a ramp for disabled people. Eldem makes sure nothing is overlooked and rather complements them. The staircase he had implemented is located on the entirely opposite end from the entrance. Of what seems to be a dysfunctional and tiring design is actually one that satisfies both form and function. It successfully serves not only the users and design of the building, but also deems it to be functional for those around it. This makes the bottom of the steep slope that it is located upon seem even more balanced and well-fitted. Every 3 years, the Aga Khan Award is given to progressive and historically appreciative architecture. The SSK complex earned this award in 1984, as its designs perfectly fit such standards and more. The office complex embraced the modern development that Turkey was striving for during the modern movement that has succeeded in presenting itself and creating a new form of Turkish architecture. Sedad Eldem was rightfully rewarded as this architectural complex satisfied the idea of progression to create and inspire others to pursue such modernistic designs. He used to incorporate the plans of old Turkish houses in his designs, adding to it his own modern twist. This allowed for the evolution of one of his latest and significant works to successfully achieve such an equilibrium in a traditional region. His design is one that was also able to boldly insert itself in such a space while respecting historic landmarks nearby. Of these landmarks lies a historically built mosque along with long-lived homes of citizens. This building was a representative of the progressiveness of Turkish architecture, allowing it to re-establish itself to the world and state that Turkey's architecture was not only significant in the past, but its embrace of modernity and respect to its culture has allowed its architecture to be just as relevant in the now as an international inspiration. The SSK complex in Zarek, Turkey is a deeply impactful architectural building that still stands today. Its pursuit of Turkish nationalism as well as international modernism has been looked upon by many architects worldwide.